Så du siger bare til, når jeg starter.
Ja, gør bare.
Vi sidder her på Château Brane-Cantenac sammen med Henri Lurton. Jeg er i en lykkelig situation. Jeg elsker at forgudet slottet siden 1978. Og det vi skal tale om i dag, det er, at vi skal tale om årgang 2022, hvor vi har Baron de Brane. Og nu har jeg fra manden selv, hvad det her det er for en årgang, hvad der skabte den årgang, som i min verden, og jeg har missioneret meget for i Danmark, synes jeg er den bedste årgang i 32 år. So, Henri, thanks for inviting me here to your beautiful place.
It's a pleasure.
And
Great
in
pleasure.
the glass we have Baron de Brane 22. Mm-hmm. And I remember the summer 22, I think it was late summer, we heard in Denmark there were bushfires in Bordeaux. Mm. It was extremely hot. So most of the connoisseurs in Denmark, they said 22, too hot, out. We don't need to buy it. It's again a vintage like 2003 where there's racing notes. Mm-hmm. And then it came into harvest, and I was here in the spring for the Uncut tastings when the 22 were presented, and the vintage was for me the best experience I had since 1990 on the Uncut tasting. So can you tell us a little about what happened? What happened from bushfires to having a wine?
You know, we can. For me, 22 is a legendary vintage, and we had one in the past. I was not born in 47. Oh. 47, we had the big fires in Bordeaux, and you know we have legendary wines like Cheval Blanc 47. That is an incredible wine.
Yes.
And 22, it's the same. It's not like 2003 is very different, but because night was also very hot.
Yes.
But in 22, we had a difference between night and day, and it was, yes, of course, a very hot year, but for us, really a top year, because we have freshness in the wine. We have it's a wine with very big power and structure, but with also freshness.
Yes.
And it was not the case in 2003.
So can you say that the wines somehow have gotten used to the heat and know how to handle the heat, or is it you who knows how to handle the grapes made in the heat?
No, because it's, in fact, yes, the vine is also used to the heat, because some very young vines suffered because they had not enough water supply, and but the old vines didn't suffer. But it's also because yes, the climate was very hot, but we have a good reserve of water in the subsoil, so it helps to have a good ripeness.
Yes, yes. And one other thing that I think is interesting, which I also experienced, we have to just note this wine, is when I were at the Uncut tasting, it can be a little tannic experience. Mm-hmm. But what I experienced with 22 when they were there, they were open, they were delicious, they were actually easy to drink.
Yes.
The first vintage I had that experience with was from the very early beginning, 82. Mm-hmm. Delicious to drink young. A lot of the people said then, it's too easy to drink, it won't last, but it just still lasts.
Yes.
And I had the same with 90. Is that something you can say is a DNA of a great vintage, that the wines are nice to drink young as well?
In fact, people before they thought, because great vintages were quite tannic, but it was a quantity of tannins that are important. But no, for the great wines, it's really the quality of tannins. And in 22 we have a lot of tannins, but they are very soft, in fact. So you don't find the tannins, but you have a lot of tannins, so it will age very long. And when the balance is very good, and if you have soft tannins, it's even better. You can
so
have
there is a lot of tannins in it.
Yeah, there is a lot of tannin in 22, a lot of tannins, but they are very velvety.
They are very velvety.
Yeah.
Because also what I find is that minerality, and it's it's like on the nose, it's a little persistent, but it's very attractive on the nose. I had the experience where in one of my shops, opened a bottle at a festival and people hadn't nosed it. Whoop, please 6, please 6, you know, so immediately,
yes, very attractive.
Yes, let's taste it. And again, there's no doubt when you get this wine, this is Margaux.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you know it, it has this luxury taste. It's unexplainable, but I've been lucky to have your wine from very old 80s. And Christmas Eve, actually, I had 38 and 50 and 59. And this Bichel nose that I find in Brane-Cantenac, also in Baron de Brane, and also in Margaux de Brane, the basic wines, is just something that is going through many, many years since before you made them. It's a signature.
In fact, as winemaker, we make the wine with really depending on the terroir, on the place, because we know that the signature of the place is more important than. So we have to be precise. We have to make to take the best from the grapes. What is important is the quality of the grapes. And after to take the best from the grapes. But there is no recipe. Every year we had to try to make the best wine with the signature of the place. Because the signature of the place in great terroir, it's much. In fact, you can be the best winemaker. The terroir is much better than you. In fact, much more important than you.
Than the man making the wine. Yes.
The man is very important to make it top. But and the team, we have a great team at Brane. The team is very important. We have to be dedicated, but the place is at the end is more important.
I noticed that you said at lunch that when you harvest, it's like there's no truth, there's no prescript. That you start all over again, but still you get the same style in the wines year after year.
Yes, every year is different.
Yes.
So we have to adapt to the year. We have a good knowledge, so we taste the grapes. But we have to adapt because we don't know. The climate is always different.
Yes.
The weather is always different. And we know that if we have some rain, this place will maybe stay and we can wait, even if it's riper. And this one we have to rush. So knowledge is very important. And at the end, it's really the quality of each places that makes the signature of the wine.
Fantastic. And you know, in these modern times, we cannot spend too much of people's time because they get bored. You know
yes.
So
don't want to be boring.
The final question for me is, do you think, as when I was very young and tasted the 82 and were told it won't last, but it did, even though this is delicious to drink right now, do you think this would last?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
It will last much more than me. Yeah. When you taste wines that are great vintage, that's 1 century old, and you have this signature, and it depends on cellaring, on the cork, on a lot of things. Yeah. But it's the DNA of the place, in fact.
Yes.
And we work in the technology help also to have the best grapes, and so it will last. Of course, I'm sure.
Yes. And that's the good news, finally, because I think that what I enjoy is so I can take a bottle out of the cellar once a year, twice a year, and then follow it and see how it develops, but always getting pleased. And I think really 22 is a vintage that will please you now and many years ahead.
Now you have a lot of pleasure, but you will have in the future, no problem.
Thank you for your time. Cheers.
It's my pleasure.
I have to drink it. Great. Wow.
Can I get you to sip one more time? Nu er der jo ikke så meget i dit glas mere.
Kan jeg hælde op? Eller?
Kan du bare cirkle dem lidt rundt?